I have pressed the it's being recorded button. If anybody has any qualms about being recorded, I hope that you will be able to turn off your video. If everyone would be so kind as to identify themselves in the chat, that would be really, really helpful to us. We are taking notes and we want to make sure that we are representing everybody here correctly. So let us know, please, if you have contact information. Thank you, Mavis. And I just wanted to lay out what it is that we are trying to accomplish this time around. We're very topically going to be discussing air quality, and I'm sure that all of you have noticed in this last week that the air quality is particularly atrocious. And my understanding is that this is partly this week to do with the fact that we are bringing wildfire smoke from out west has blown our way and has joined local sources of pollution to catalyze a particularly nasty stew in our particular Pittsburgh inversion. But we've invited some people along to be able to discuss local air pollution and what it is that people are doing here to monitor and to report and potentially also to improve or to remediate the air situation here. And I would love it if people have questions to be able to sort of bring those to the fore as our presenters have wrapped up. So we're going to keep the presentations, if we can, to a pretty brief period and focus mostly on questions and conversation. So my name is Andrea Boykowicz, and I'm the Assistant Director at Oakland Planning and Development Corporation. And thank you all for introducing yourselves in the chat and on your Zoom correctly. And I think we can just kind of get right into it. Sue Seppi is with us here from GASP, which is the Group Against Smog and Pollution. Sue, if you'd like to unmute yourself, I'd love we can get started. And Nick is driving the bus with our Zoom slides and has what it was that was sent to you, I believe.
Can you guys see this?
Yes, we can see that.
Let me try and put it into presenter view. There it is.
I'm not seeing Sue, so hold on just one second.
Hi.
Hello, I'm sorry, I wasn't seeing you.
Hi, I think that's the second slide.
Hi, Sue. Sorry, thank you. Are you saying that this is the second slide and we don't have the first?
Yeah, this is the second. I think you have the first. I saw it there. There it is.
Very good. Okay, take it away, Sue.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I am a project manager at Group Against Smog and Pollution. GASP has been working for 51 years in Western Pennsylvania, primarily to improve the area's air quality. GASP is a member of many of the subcommittees and the advisory committee for the air program at the Allegheny County Health Department. So we follow, comment, and advocate for air quality improvements and regulations, permits, and air quality in general. So this is a recap of some of the regulations, progress towards attainment of air standards, and other issues of the air program where GASP and many other organizations participate and advocate for healthy air. Some good news recently concerning particulate air pollution. According to an Allegheny County press release on January 26, 2021, based on preliminary data from the department's monitors, Allegheny County is attaining both the annual and 24-hour standards for PM2.5. This is a particulate standard for the first time since the Environmental Protection Agency set the National Ambient Air Quality Standards for fine particulate matter in 1999. As you can see on the tables, all the monitors indicate for 2020 an annual weighted mean value below the annual standard of 12, and for the 24-hour PM2.5 standard, a value below the standard of 35 micrograms per cubic meter. More importantly, both were below their design values at all the monitors. Design value usually takes into consideration performance over several years. You may wonder if 2020, a pandemic year with less traffic, affected the design value. The press release noted the county was still on track to attain the federal standards even without lower levels of pollution due to the pandemic. The request for certification of the data was submitted to EPA on March 8, 2021. If certification of the data is successful with EPA, there would be a process then to submit a request for attainment of the 2.5 microgram per cubic meter annual and short-term standards. It should be noted that there have been exceedances of the PM 2.5 hour standard on several days so far in 2021. The county is still not in attainment for the sulfur dioxide standard. Newly required pollution control equipment at Clairton Cove to meet the 1 hour sulfur dioxide standard may be contributing, however, to lower concentrations. The sulfur dioxide yearly concentration has moved from 130 parts per billion in 2018 to 80 in 2019 and 44 parts per billion in 2020. Another big issue, especially but not exclusively in the Mon Valley and downwind, are odors. On the slide, listed in descending approximate frequency, are the odor complaints from zip code 15213 on the Smell Pittsburgh app for 2021 so far. The Smell Pittsburgh app is from P8 Lab at Carnegie Mellon. Industrial was the most frequent descriptive complaint, with sulfur and rotten eggs a significant second and third. Sulfur, industrial, rotten eggs could have a lot of overlap. In that odor mix, the rotten egg smell is the typical odor description for hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide has a low odor threshold, so it is easily and unhappily noticed. It also has a Pennsylvania State 1 hour standard of 0.1 part per million and 24 hour standard of 0.005 part per million. The 24 hour standard has been violated in double digits repeatedly for many years. GASP has long argued the quality of life's importance of meeting this standard, not allowing the issues of odors to slide, especially when it has regulatory standard limits. As of July 6, the hydrogen sulfide standard was violated 30 times in 2021 for Liberty Monitor, noting that all data is not yet quality issued. Additional violations have also been reported at the new hydrogen sulfide North Braddock monitor as well. On the plus side, there is, in addition to the long-time hydrogen sulfide monitor at Liberty, as mentioned, a monitor now at North Braddock and a proposed monitor for the Clairton monitoring site. Additional hydrogen sulfide surveillance is planned using portable hydrogen sulfide analyzers in and around the Mon Valley. United States Steel Clairton Cove, by emission inventory, is the largest source of hydrogen sulfide in the county. There may also be some other unrecognized sources contributing. Interestingly, there was one odor identification of a struck match, which is the odor of sulfur dioxide. Some of the sulfur identification could be struck match, as well as possibly the rotten egg of hydrogen sulfide. Transportation emissions, especially in an urban area with heavy bus traffic, as in Oakland, are also going to be impactful. On the positive side, Allegheny County Health Department, through a grant, has funded the purchase of 7 electric buses, and some of them are targeted for the Oakland area. The county, City of Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh Urban Redevelopment Authority now require construction projects of $2.5 million or more to have a diesel emission control strategy, such as retrofits on older diesel trucks, for example, on an on-road dump truck, and off-road equipment such as backhoes. This is an issue GASP, along with many other groups, worked on for many years. In the area of Oakland and surroundings, there are many major sources of emissions. Immediately in Oakland, major sources. If we could have the next slide, the one that was up, there we go. So in the area of Oakland, major sources, CBL circle, include the Belfield boiler, and University of Pittsburgh. Both are major sources of nitrogen dioxide and carbon monoxide. Also note that besides other surrounding industrial sources, two new major sources are probable at a greater distance. The Shell plant in Beaver County, which I'm sure most of you have heard about, and a new natural gas plant, Allegheny Energy Center, now in the air permitting stage in Elizabeth County. To finish, everything is connected, and from the local to the world, we're being impacted by climate change. Dawn Hopi, a well-known and long-time environmental reporter for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, noted in a recent story about herself, "I'm not being too dramatic, and I'm not the first one to say, the climate change is the story of our lifetime." Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sue. I think that we're going to have a lot of questions for you, but I wanted to pivot next to Mr. Presto, who I believe has also joined us from the Carnegie Mellon University. Maybe you can talk a bit about the tools that we're using to gather this information, this data, and what kinds of things it's tuned for, what kinds of things it's looking for, and what kinds of ways that people can actually contribute to the information gathering.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of my work is about hyperlocal air quality. And so, yeah, we can skip the title slide. Basically, I just want to cover a little bit. Hit go one more time, it might pop up, there we go. I just want to talk about some of the work we've done about that and sort of how that works out. So basically, in Pittsburgh and in the county more broadly, we have a lot of sort of really highly resolved air quality data, so spatially resolved. And so this is one example of that. This is an estimate that we made several years ago of one component of particulate matter across the county. So, you know, if you think about the particles, like it's been really hazy the last few days, that's from particles, and a lot of those are from wildfire smoke. You're gonna get different stuff and particles from wildfire smoke than you are from other sources like traffic or industry or things like that. And so one of the components that ends up being kind of important is this stuff called black carbon. And so it's basically just carbon soot. So that truck in the top left, basically it's the black stuff coming out of the smokestacks of the truck, right? And so we've made these maps, and this is just one of them. We have a bunch of these. And so, you know, one of the big sources for this particular component of particulate matter is traffic. So you can see the roads, what the arrows are pointing to, you know, the turnpike into I-79. And if you actually look, you know, I would, you know, sort of, I'm sure everyone can see downtown. If you look just east of downtown, that's Oakland, and that's like Forbes and Fifth, those sort of two streets that are really red, right? There's a lot of traffic on them in general. There's a lot of buses going up and down them, right? So that's an area of higher sort of concentration of this component of particles. And then the more blobby areas, like, you know, to the south where we're pointing, those are industrial emissions, right? So we have this sense of what the sources are and where they are.
Can I ask one quick question? I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
but in Oakland, just this area, is that Bates that's heading up from the Parkway? Is that the dark red artery that then connects with the Forbes Fifth?
Might be, I'm not. So
Okay, just curious.
if you guys Google Breathe Project, there's a version of this map where you can like put your address in and zoom in. I'll try and get the exact link and put it in the chat later. And then if you go one more slide, oh, sorry, one more. You see, I forgot my order here. So one of the ways we get all this information is that we maintain a network of low-cost sensors. So there's a bunch of ways we collect information. One is through this this low-cost sensor network that we've been running since 2016. And we make all the data freely available. I don't have the link to the data, but I'm happy to share it, you know, offline or in the chat. And we let folks host sensors. And so, you know, aside from any sensors that we put on campus at CMU, we actually have two in Oakland. So one is at Carlo, sort of right at 5th and Craft, I think it is. It's in their big parking lot. I drive by it every day on my way home. And there's one at Phipps. sort of back, like if you go to that new back building where they have all their offices, it's on top of that building. And so you can see we have a bunch. Some of these have moved since then, but we maintain this network, and we, we're always looking for new places to put sensors. Like I said, we share the data, and we also monthly. So I think sharing the data, it comes out every 15 minutes. That's sort of like for the power users. We also put out monthly reports, and I can share the link to those. That every month we put out a new report, and we're also working now to put out some special reports. So like I just posted one today about an industrial fire. Sort of in a week or two, once all the fire smoke is cleared, we'll do one about that. And I'm working on one about fireworks that I'll probably get up by the end of the week. So that's it. I'm going to stop there. That's sort of I have a bunch more slides, but I don't want to sort of take a bunch of time. But those are some of the tools we're using and ways that sort of people can interact with the data. And I'll grab those links and share them in the chat here in a minute.
Thanks. I think I grabbed the link to the map.
Yes, that is the right link.
Into the chat. So yeah, by all means, please share those through. And I'm sure we're going to have questions for you, but for the moment, we're going to move also on to Christine Graziano, who's from the Brief Project, to talk a little bit about complaints very proximate to Oakland. Christine, I know you didn't have slides that you specifically prepared, but is there anything that you'd like us to call up on the screen that would be helpful?
Sure, you could pull up the Birmingham Bridge site, maybe on Google Maps, which would give you a zoom in on Lindy Paving, or PJ Dick's paving plant there. Share that, and I'll just start speaking in the meantime, if that's okay. So thanks for having me. I work on a campaign with the Breathe Project. For anyone that wants to learn more about the Breathe Project, you can go to breatheproject.org. And also on this call is Deb Smith, and she's the communications director for the Breathe Project. So she can help answer some questions perhaps later. The Breathe Project acts as a clearinghouse for information relative to air quality, and they have a fantastic database filled with articles, scientific articles, and as well popular news articles that can be more palatable relative to air pollution and specific to our region. It's a great resource, so I definitely suggest you check out the website and the resources there to learn more about our air quality problems in general. But I became involved with the Breathe Project as a collaborative member through the organization that I also work with, which is Plant 5 for Life. We plant trees to mitigate essentially pollution from mobile corridors. That's an area of focus for us. And we are moving into measuring the health impacts sort of pre-intervention and post-intervention. But the work that is most relevant to Oakland and that I'm involved with the Breathe Project through the collaborative and through some contract work I'm doing with them is relative to the Birmingham Bridge. So there is a site, there are two sites under the Birmingham Bridge on 2nd Avenue, which are best described as both an asphalt plant and a cement facility. The asphalt plant was the site of initial concern. So asphalt fumes in general are known toxins, and so asphalt processing plants are sources of hazardous air pollutants like formaldehyde, hexane, phenol, polycyclic organic matter, toluene, and exposure to those toxics in general can cause a range of problems from cancer to respiratory problems and skin irritation, central nervous system problems and liver damage. The fumes from the plant have been described as far as we know as deep into Shadyside and as close as Oakland and Uptown on various occasions. The plant operates with fairly normalized operating hours of production from 6 a.m. until 4 p.m. with a third of the time operating in the middle of the night or later into the day, depending on what kind of paving operations are going on. Many trucks cycle through there on the order of 100 trucks a day, filling up trucks and leaving with hot asphalt. And there are known fugitive emissions from asphalt plants across the country, and particularly have been reported at this particular location. So I'm bringing it to the attention of the Oakland community. We've presented before about this, and we continue to collect observational data and quantitative data to the best of our ability, and we're trying to increase our capacity to do that as a group of interested residents and individuals participating in the Breathe Project and the collaborative. We have some monitors that have gone up, purple air monitor along the river, as well as a ramp in close proximity, and there'll be some on-site air sampling done this summer along as part of Albert Presto's work and lab work to try to understand sort of the patterns of emissions that are coming from there and leaving the property boundaries. We know that the plant is operating under an administrative permit right now, kind of a continuance of their expired permit, and they will eventually come up for a permit renewal. They come up every I believe every 5 years, and so their renewal is pending, and we'll have an opportunity as a community to speak up at that time. So as much data as we can bring to the table to say, you know, maybe regulatory oversight of this facility could be improved, or, you know, perhaps different measures could be taken at the plant to minimize fugitive emissions and health impacts. All those things can be brought to light and to the table at that time. So we just continue to, you know, reach out to the community, make them aware. And if you're interested in either hosting a monitor or getting involved with the campaign, even being one of the individuals who reports out on a regular basis, you know, going by the plant, we have folks who send pictures of visible emissions, who report on smell. Any and all of that would be welcome. We do have regular bi-weekly meetings on the topic of that site, and our conversation, you know, reaches into the broader air quality issues in our region as well. You'd be welcome to participate. Just reach out, and we can get you set up with the information you need to participate in those. So that's all. I won't say too much more. I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar again, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So thank you so much to Christine and to Albert and to Sue for those sort of introductions. And I'd love to be able to open this up to questions in case people have. I have, like, you know, dozens of questions in my head, but I talk a lot, and I was hoping maybe other people would chime in. Is anybody curious about anything in particular?
Yeah, I am. This is Elena. What would be required if you wanted to host a monitor? I live on Ophelia Street, like right up from the bridge.
That would be fantastic. We were looking for folks on Ophelia. So, you know, I think Albert could speak relative to the ramp. I can tell you that, and I'm sure he can speak to the other monitors as well. So I'll just be really brief. My understanding of monitor hosting is you really just need a place to locate it on the outside of your building. It could be as just a small, hook in on a piece of siding or a small drill hole into the mortar. You just need a way to attach it to the outside of your building, and be willing to put the monitor on guest Wi-Fi or your Wi-Fi system. It is, there have been no complaints of any hacking or any risk that way. So we feel it's relatively safe, and these monitors are all over the country. You can see that through purpleair.org. So I'll just say that you need to be able to be on Wi-Fi. There are options if you don't have a Wi-Fi connection. It's a different kind of monitor. And that's it. You need an outdoor electricity source for the majority of monitors, although that's changing as well. So there may be a way around that. And it would be good if you would commit to sort of, if the monitor goes down or there's a power outage, just trying to power it up so that somebody doesn't have to come out. But that's possible that someone could help support in that way too. It's a very, very minimal commitment usually. Sometimes we have batches of monitors available to offer. If you want to fund one yourself, that's also useful to the campaign. They run for the Purple Airs around $200, $250. That's as much as I'm going to say. Maybe Albert would like to add additional information.
Yeah, so as Christine said, for the Purple Airs, you just sort of need a place to hang them. If you want to buy your own, they're like $250, and you need access to Wi-Fi, and they do need power because they run a little fan, and otherwise they run down overnight if you try and hook them to a battery. For our sensors, if you're interested, you can email me. There are 2 Albert Prestos in the United States, and one is me and one is my dad, and my dad's retired. So if you find an email address, it's probably me. And ours are similar. We need a place to hang them, and we do need line power. It's like running a 60-watt bulb all the time. It runs on a laptop charger, to be honest. And ours, I think, no one has bought one independently because the ramp it measures a bunch more stuff. It sort of is more like $4,000. So the way we operate is that we own them and we take care of them and we maintain them. And then as people sort of, we take them to places as people get requests. And so we do have a little bit of like a backlog essentially of, based on our ability to keep things maintained and what our levels of requests are and where other sensors are, we have to sort of do some prioritization. But yeah, definitely if you're interested, email me. I'll put my email in the chat too.
Thank you. Do we have other questions that people would like to? You should feel free, please, to unmute yourself if you have a question to ask it directly.
What other places are problematic in Allegheny County that would affect Oakland and surrounding areas other than that place? There has to be a lot.
I mean, so Tricia, I'm sorry, are you asking like what are the sources of air pollution aside from Lindy paving that you would be smelling in Oakland? So Sue sort of went through a couple of those, and Albert, I think that was in your map also, that we get fumes from local ambient sources, but then the fixed point would be up the Mon Valley, then probably Clairton, Coke Works and so forth, or am I wrong about that?
I'll give Sue a chance to answer before professors can talk too much, so I'll see if Sue wants to take it first.
So community organizers.
Sue, you might be muted.
Sue, we can't hear you, you're muted.
Not just a place like Tube City.
Yeah.
They're like a junkyard. Is that one of them?
Yeah, and I mean, Edgar Thompson certainly has a lot of emissions, and there are now hydrogen sulfide, which can at least measure the emissions that smell like rotten eggs that people report a lot. And the suspicion that some of that is coming from the area around Edgar Thompson, may not be Edgar Thompson itself. the largest source of hydrogen sulfide is going to be the Clairton Coke Works. And, you know, there's, as I mentioned, lots of violations that have occurred at the Liberty Monitor, which is really directly downwind from the Clairton Coke Works. And all of that on a light wind day is going to, you know, move around the county and come into downtown and come into Oakland and Shadyside, etc.
Also worth pointing out are the numerous construction sites that are underway or coming online. They're in Oakland. My understanding from speaking with Liz Gray is that there are, you know, there's quite a bit of dust and particulate matter of concern coming from these sites collectively. So that might be, you know, just on an ongoing basis, a source of concern in Oakland. Another good resource I just want to point your attention to, there's a list of top 10 polluters that Penn Environment reports on, and you can see pretty easily, I just put it in the chat, some of the more localized sources in proximity to Oakland, if that's helpful. There is a chemical plant in Lawrenceville that may have some reach. You know, part of the problem is everything sort of gets trapped in the valley, you know, and in these different pockets during inversions, and so it's kind of a soup of different air pollutants from different sources when the wind doesn't move it out.
So I mean, Oakland is obviously extremely hilly and valley place. It isn't a single, there's not one single topography that describes Oakland's shape. And I'm wondering if there are differences in impact to residential areas depending on if they are uphill or downhill or on the side of a hill or in a flat area. Like, does it make a difference in terms of how the air moves and how pollutants are likely to linger?
Yes. So basically what happens around here a lot is that air can get trapped in valleys, and that can be in like really deep valleys, like the river valleys can be pretty extreme, but it can also happen in smaller ones. You know, but you have to get the air into the valley, right? So it's not like it just sort of teleports over. So, you know, right, like if you imagine like a highway that's down in a valley, and I can't think of a necessary, like, I don't know, there are parts of 376 where it's sort of in a valley. And if it's a poor mixing day, all of that stuff's going to sort of get stuck down there. Similarly, like you can make valleys out of buildings, right? So there are parts, you know, of the busier traffic corridors where the buildings are sort of tall enough to create what's called a street canyon. I mean, it's not as extreme as you would get like downtown, but there are chunks where like the buildings on either side are pretty tall for a few blocks. And so you can get trapping of air pollutants there. And so that especially, that sort of trapping is usually worse like overnight into the morning. So you can get sort of higher concentrations like first thing in the morning when everyone's coming to work. But yeah, then you could also have like localized pockets, you know, and then it would just depend on what the nearby sources are.
And is there a measurable impact, say, for instance, to your local air pollution if you have like, you know, more or less tree canopy coverage and so forth like that? Are there, you know, like the equivalent of outdoor air filters that we should be looking into?
So trees are awesome for a lot of reasons, right? They provide a lot of cooling, and they don't really filter air pollution that well unless you have like a super dense hedge. But like there are a lot of other benefits, just street trees. You can get slightly, like in the summer, you can get slightly less ozone because if you have a bunch of trees and then like you're not heating up the air near the ground, it can make a difference. I don't know, like I couldn't put a number on it though, right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, one of the biggest studies in terms of trees' impact on health and mitigating risk from air pollutants is going on right now in Louisville, Kentucky. It's called the Green Heart Project, and that's what we are working to unroll with various partners here in the region through Plant 5 for Life and with the Breathe Project, with UPMC and some other partners. Albert is right. The evidence is shows that it's really that dense sort of biofilter from ground planting to shrub layer to subcanopy to canopy. You know, you're creating almost a wall of vegetation, and that's when you get the kind of sort of filtering impacts from particulate matter and capture that you might want in order to protect a vulnerable population on the other side of that that wall, so to speak. But yeah, I think that the cooling is a big part of any mitigation relative to the impacts of air pollution, because as these pollutants heat up, they can have an enhanced sort of adverse effect on our health from what we know from the literature. So the cooler you keep the urban temperatures, the better that can be overall, and trees can help with that. And they do have a whole myriad of other wonderful benefits also. So not to be discounted. But in terms of what people can do individually, probably the most powerful thing you can do is to contact your council person on a regular basis so that they hear from you. Because one of the sort of more startling things that I think the Breathe Project has stumbled into, or not stumbled into, but has learned over time, is that you know, you hear people speaking about their experience, their lived experience with air pollution at various times and in various places and pockets all over the county. And but the council folks, both the county council and city council, rarely hear from people. And if they don't hear from people and they can't record that this is a public concern, they don't have sort of the mandate to act. And many of them would like to. Their own lived experiences are telling them there's a problem, but they need to hear from us. So that's I think probably one of the most powerful things you can do from a long-term strategic point of view. And then there are air filters you can put in your house. Unfortunately, they tend to be a bit pricey. There are mobile units like Austin Air and Rapid Air that can be useful, and keeping your window shut at night. You know, like Albert said, there are a lot of a lot of the inversion, the impacts of inversions and that sort of stillness of air is happening in the evening. And when you have somebody like a plant like an asphalt plant producing asphalt at 2 in.the morning and the air is not moving, you're really going to experience, you know, the nastiness of that odor and some of the health impacts. So just, you know, some basic awareness that way can help too. And using the smell app, reporting to the health department. They have a email system and a online complaint form, recording those so that the evidence is amassed and the right authorities and representatives can find their voice to represent us and act accordingly. Really what I would add.
There are other questions. I have other questions too, but I also don't want to monopolize this too much. But if other people have questions, please. Or comments or observations.
I might comment on what we were just talking about, the inversions, the kind of stagnant air overnight, not moving. There are new episodic air regulations that are going to be headed for county council for approval. And this is going to require industry on projected air pollution days to cut back with a specific plan that ACHD is going to have to approve. So hopefully that will also help on these stagnant inversion evenings. So that's in progress.
Would that also include the construction sites when we're talking about, you know, being asked to cut back or shut down or whatever?
It's major and synthetic sources. I don't think construction sites, they're looking for PM 2.5 in particular, and also small sources of, I think it's, oh gosh, 2.5 tons of emission, or 5.2 tons, something like that. A relatively small amount, but definitely the major and synthetic minor sources. And also there'll be a disallowance of open burning for either the warning level or the watch level. So no outdoor wood burning also, which might be a big help in certain areas.
What
Are there
about,
city as opposed to county regulations about what kinds of emissions are permissible in construction areas? Like, so I mean, there's a suggestion, Christine, you just put into the chat that we could install air quality monitors before construction begins, so you have some sort of baseline. But then, is there a particular action, like are permits for construction in any way limited by how much local emissions they can actually produce?
That they're limited. If you look at some of the larger, like University of Pittsburgh might have construction going on, their permit will limit opacity emissions. So dust coming up that is 20%, 60%, whatever. If you look at their permit to see what is allowable, they do have opacity requirements. So that's something. I mean, obviously, when you look at a site, you see dust blowing all over the site. You know that's not good, and you don't have to be a really big enviro person. You can just call the health department and tell them, you know, my car is full of dust, and very likely there is a requirement that in their permit that they not allow that kind of dust to leave the site. So don't hesitate, as Christine was saying, to be in touch with your council person, other people. You know it's not right to have dust flying all over the place from construction sites.
One thing also, it's a smaller thing, but we're trying to get 311 to accept those calls because it is a little cumbersome to use the Allegheny County Health Department complaint system. And while that is really our best bet right now in terms of getting a message to the county system, one thing we are asking at least the council representative for Shadyside, and I believe she covers some of Oakland too, Erica Strasburger, to push for the ability for 311 to accept a complaint call in and then transfer that to the health department. Currently, they have no ability to do that. They can do it for other health department related issues, but not relative to, you know, smell or, you know, seeing a problem with dust or whatnot. So I think that could make things much friendlier and easier, and people might be more inclined to pick up the phone and make a call if 311 would accept that. So that could be a thing too, where you advocate to your council person to push for that change through the 311 system and how it's connected to the health department and how it transmits information.
Take some pictures.
And take, yeah, you can upload
Documentation
those.
is everything. Feel free to copy Oakland Planning if you are sending emails or tweeting that at 311. We are happy to keep track of those complaints also, and to follow up with the agencies. And we also like to know if people are experiencing bad air quality in Oakland. Does anybody else have any other questions? We've reached just about that moment in our agenda when we are wrapping up, but if there are additional pressing concerns. I want to thank you guys so much for agreeing on to come and talk about air quality. I know that there are so many issues and it's hard to condense into a short presentation, and it's not clear always where the questions are going to come from, but we really appreciate all of you being available to answer these kinds of questions. So
Thank you. Thanks
you
for your
so
interest in this topic. Thanks.
No, it's hugely important. It's been definitely impacting us this week, as we can all tell. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Elena and to Liz for the Oakwatch updates.
Thank you, Andrea. We always start Oakwatch meetings with the Oakwatch mission statement. The Oakland Code Enforcement Project works to improve the quality of life in Oakland by bringing people and institutions together to identify code violations, advocate for their remediation, and monitor the outcomes. Code enforcement news that we have, a decision has been made in the rental registry case. The city lost the case, and the reason given was that the fees were too high. And the other bit of information I have is that there will be a Central Oakland Code Walk on Friday, August 6th. And involved in these code walks are folks from PLI, DPW, the police, PIT, elected officials, and of course, Liz and myself. On to the problem properties and the Oakwatch property list. Liz?
Okay. Yeah, we're going to start with Zero Boundary, which is also known as 527545 Yarrow Street. We're returning to housing court with them tomorrow, actually, because they have failed an inspection because their work is not matching to the drawings that they had submitted. So if anybody wants to join me at housing court, 9 o'clock, South Side by 10th Avenue. Also, we have 2610 Forbes.
Excuse me, so this is specific to the retaining wall?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. Next, we've got 2610 Forbes Avenue, and that is a city-owned property. And it has been an ongoing target of taggers and some vandalism on the property. We have filed new complaints on it, and we're hoping to get it cleaned up, but it's just sadly, every time they get it cleaned up, it just gets tagged again. So this is an ongoing problem, which I've got a suggestion at the end of this on one way that we could possibly deal with some of these situations. 3221 Kennett Square. Elena and everybody led a very strong charge down at the Zoning Board of Adjustments, but unfortunately ZBA has given the decision to the 2 units to go ahead. We're kind of disappointed, but that's what it is. 3401 and 3421 Bates, otherwise known as the Oakland Gateway Venture, the row houses down at Bates and the Boulevard of the Allies. They are actually going to planning, city planning on Thursday, the 27th, for demolition of multiple properties. Okay, they want to get that moving as quickly as possible. 3421 Park Avenue, the case has been dismissed because the owner is deceased, so we're kind of in a holding pattern there. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, this dead-end properties, which is a growing issue for us. We've got 3204 Niagara Street, 3319 Niagara Street, 3611 Fraser Street, and 1 Ayr Street. Okay, they've all been condemned. The issues still exist, but because PLI can't serve a summons on the owner, there's nothing to be done. The cases are just dismissed when we reach court. Next slide, please. Okay. The other case going to housing court is 204 Tennyson Avenue. For building without a permit, the owner was doing a great deal of alterations on a carriage house in the historic district, but why we're going to housing court tomorrow is because he doesn't have any permits for the work that he was doing. Next slide, please. Okay, this is where we're talking about possible, at least we can make the city more aware, and as it says, who's listening, the assistant director of code enforcement, you can go to this page on the city's website and you can enter property addresses and give your comment on the property and send that into the city. And I'm really kind of reaching out to everybody. we're all affected by this. It is one way of at least, we're keeping the city aware that these property are an issue. We're stuck in a limbo as we are right now. So I'm hoping people can take advantage of the demolition engagement project. Okay. And that's me.
Hey Liz, did you check on those two properties on Juliet Street? Because there was a pallet of drywall in front of the one.
Yes, I have not heard back from PLI on that, but they are looking into that. They're looking into also the sale of 3632 Dawson, which is an issue. I think that was the only other ones I've got outstanding with PLI right now.
Any other questions? Okay. On to our summaries from public safety. Zone 4, Officer Schifrin. I didn't see posted report. Is Officer Schifrin still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. Do you have anything that needs to be reported or anything that stands out?
Well, it's hard to say. I can describe, the 2 months comparative crimes, if that's what you'd like to hear.
I don't, is that?
That's what the usual report.
We were trying to get away from that, more into, summaries. So that's why I said, does anything stand out or?
Yeah, okay. A few things stand out. There were a number of thefts from residences. That is theft, in other words, of delivered packages.
Yeah.
So what I would encourage people to do is make arrangements if they know they're going to have something delivered. Either tell the delivery service at a certain window to deliver it in and find out if they can do that, or make sure it's delivered to a neighbor that you trust,
yep,
or pick it up at the delivery facility. But if any residents just assume that it will be there hours after it's left, that's not so smart.
Yep.
Things get stolen that way. Also, I'm looking at the numbers now. The numbers are fairly low. Stolen vehicles. It's really important to leave nothing, or to leave no key in your car. We still see incidences where people leave a spare key or a valet key in the glove box or in a center console. And if someone gets into the car, they're generally really good at searching it, and they'll find the key if it's there. So I really encourage people not to leave any kind of spare key inside the car at all. Finally, if you go to the park safe for a walk, if you drive there, just be sure and empty the passenger compartment of anything at all. Not only anything apparently valuable like a purse or a laptop case, but even something like an old sweatshirt or a pair of tennis shoes on the back seat. Thieves will assume, being the optimists that they tend to be, that there's something valuable inside even an old piece of clothing. And once in 50 times they'll find a wristwatch or an iPhone or a wallet, and that keeps them going, hoping for the next 49 times till they hit the next one. So don't leave anything at all showing in the car. And if you're going to put things in the trunk, which is a good idea, do it before you get there. So no one who happens to be in the area there in the parking lot, say, sees you getting out of your car in running shorts or sweatpants, putting something in your trunk and then leaving. Because they'll assume, okay, you just put whatever is of value into the trunk. And they may break the window to hit the trunk release to check what's inside. So I think these are all, I mean, police love to use the term common sense. But I've been a cop long enough now, I guess, that I can't avoid doing that myself. So just try to use common sense. And, you know, if you have any questions, you can write to me, of course, and I'd be glad to answer you.
Thank you. And if you could get that report to Liz, we'll put it on the Oakwatch page of the OPDC website.
Sure, glad to.
Thank you. And as for public safety, John Tokarski isn't with us tonight, but his July flyer is on the Oakwatch site already. Pitt Police, Officer Cunningham, something similar. Anything, Officer Cunningham, are you still with us?
I'm here. How's everyone?
Hi.
Okay, not too much of a summary, but there have been an increase of suspicious activity reported South Oakland area and also North Campus as well. But we have a whole lot more people on campus, and it's going to grow even more once the students come back at the end of the month. That's our welcome week. The last week of August is when they are going to start coming back. So the more, I mean, we're right in the middle of the city. So once they come back, we'll probably get more reports of that, but nothing has, by the looks of it, there were no summons or major incidents from those suspicious activities. So
is it thought that it's the same person or a few people, or are they just so random you can't tell?
The same people reporting, or just the individuals being reported?
Yeah, the same people doing the crimes.
No, it's just different individuals. Yeah. So I mean, we have so many, but like I said, we have more individuals coming through campus, on and off buses, more vehicles. So it's possible. I've noticed individuals and lost, walking around and whatnot. So even cars stopping in the middle of, well, not the middle of Forbes, but on the curb, needing direction. So we're going to get that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the same thing, if you have a report, send it to Liz and we will get it posted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gwen Bolden, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Jamie, can you give some information on the Pitt Police and the National Night Out?
Yes.
Thank you.
Our National Night Out is on Tuesday, August 3rd. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Shenley Plaza, right where the carousel is. So if you are in the neighborhood, please join us. We will have most of our units, specialized units that will participate. Heather did a really great job organizing this. So we'll be there 6 to 8, excuse me, in the Shenley Plaza on the 3rd, August 3rd.
Thank you.
Great.
You're welcome.
Okay, and my last group is nighttime economy. Allison, are you still with us?
Hi, Allison actually had to leave, but this is great because I wanted to introduce myself. I'm actually new to the Office of Nighttime Economy. My name is Rachel Weber. I started about 2 weeks ago now. I come from Lawrenceville Corporation, so a fellow community development organization over there. I was their business district manager for about 5 years, so definitely well-versed in all things community meeting. So yeah, I don't have much of an update today just because I am still 2 weeks in, but I will definitely be your contact, and Allison and I are sort of like splitting up the different meetings we'll be going to, so you guys will definitely see me around. But for those who don't know, our office just sort of works with all things nightlife, hospitality businesses, restaurants. I know I was working with Liz on a few things related to a liquor license. So, you know, we do our best to try to help you guys figure out if there's any questions around those or anything like that. or if there's any, you know, issues related to bars or nightlife, you know, that's definitely something we want to be aware of. So happy to be here, and thank you guys so much.
Any questions for Rachel? Put her on the spot first night. Welcome. Thank you for coming. All right, I think that wraps it up for me.
Back to you, Andrea.
Back to me. Thank you so much. We had some concerns that were voiced in the interim time since our last Oakwatch meeting about trash and clutter on Oakland streets, and I just wanted to be able to call some attention to upcoming events that we have. Mara's with us, she can explain a little bit better, but on Monday we have the second to last clutter event where we are going to be collecting usable cast-offs from students moving out, as well as any long-term residents who are interested in decluttering. Mara, not to put you on the spot, would you like to say a word about that?
Sure. Sorry, the sun's setting, so my face is mildly indiscernible. But yes, Monday, the 26th of July, and then August 9th, also a Monday. These are our two remaining Clutter for Our Cause dates. We will be in person in the parking lot, Boulevard of the Allies, right by Panera Bread, Old Quality Inn parking lot. We'll be there at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. accepting in-person donations, and we also have a curbside pickup service. So if you have any kind of large or awkward objects, or it's just hard for you to get to the site in person, there's a Google form. I'll put it in the chat. Please fill it out in advance of Monday, and we will be able to come and pick your items up from your property.
And I wanted to reassure everybody that we are continuing to talk with landlords as well as with tenants in Central Oakland, especially where there is a lot of trash being left out, bagged, unbagged, boxed, unboxed, and is creating quite an issue for us on the streets of Oakland. But I would like to say, as a resident, it seems to me like it's a little less this year than it was in years past. Last year was, of course, freaky, but the year before that was truly nightmarish. And I feel like we're getting a little better with this whole garbage tsunami thing. Do other people have anecdotal observations that they'd like to offer? Maybe I'm speaking too soon. Maybe next week is going to be just truly horrendous.
I think we're going in the right direction, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Will the Landlord Alliance call a meeting this fall? Are we going to get something on the books?
Yes, in September. Once the students get back. During the summer, it's very hard to round up the landlords because A, most of them aren't really Zoom people, and B, B, they are working on their properties. They're in changeover, they're doing updates and that kind of stuff. So they're really kind of stretched. So getting into about the 3rd or 4th week in September, they start to calm down enough to have another meeting, which we will be doing.
Elena, you said you have a question for Gwen.
I do have a question for Gwen. Gwen, I'm sorry I didn't see that you were here. First, the same thing. If you have a report, send it to Liz. We will get it on the Oakwatch page. But my question is, and I don't know if you can answer it, can you tell us anything about the RPP program feedback from the surveys we filled out? Or when the public meetings are going to be scheduled? They were supposed to be in May and June, and they have not happened.
Yeah, all that information went to city planning, so I don't know their plan moving forward. I know that they're still reviewing them, but I don't know what the schedule is for the plan moving forward.
Okay.
Gwen, just to follow up on that, if we had questions about that, should we reach out to our neighborhood planner or to Andrew Dash, or to whom should we talk?
To Andrew Dash.
Okay. Let me see if I can get a hint for us, Elena, and I will let you know. what we find out.
Thank you.
With that, I would like to be able to hand it off for other community updates. And Jolena, did you have something that you wanted to be able to mention? I'm sorry that we didn't coordinate ahead of time where you were going to be.
No worries, no worries. Kathy let me know I'd be sometime around 7, so this worked out great. Hello, everyone. My name is Jelena McLaren. I am the Community Engagement Manager for Quantum Theater. Some of you may be familiar with the Quantum Theater, but if not, I'd like to tell you a bit about us, and then about why it's relevant to this meeting. Quantum Theater is a theater that does plays in unusual places and spaces that aren't actually theaters. We are opening our 30th anniversary season this August, and we have never done a play in the same space. We're all over the greater Pittsburgh area, and we're very excited to be opening on August 13th. An Odyssey, which is a new adaptation by J Ball in Shenley Park in the ice skating rink. It's kind of a nice little facsimile of one of those, of like an old Greek like place where you would watch a play. And so we're really excited about this, and I'm really excited to talk to you all today because we offer, for every show we do, a free night with free tickets to our shows for members of the immediate community. I feel really strongly about making sure we're not just like dropping by and just like doing a big production and then leaving without actually engaging and interacting with the folks around us. So I just wanted to make everybody aware that we will be having a free community night, technically the last day of previews before we open on Thursday, August 12th at 8 p.m. And if you're interested in coming to the free community night, I'm going to copy a link and put it in the chat. I have a Google form here. If you fill that out, I'll get you booked for a ticket. You'll receive an email confirmation. And if you can't make it on the 12th, if you're traveling, I want you to know that we also need volunteers. We have like 5 or so volunteers a night. They show up about an hour and a half before the show starts, and we'd ask you to help with concessions or to guide patrons to where to park around the Shenley Oval and things like that. And you get to see the show for free on any night that you volunteer. So the second link there is if you're interested in volunteering. The show itself is a really fresh adaptation. It emphasizes a lot of the female characters that in the original Homer epic were perhaps like a lot smaller. And it also looks at a lot of like how we define heroism and a lot of the flaws in our hero Odysseus. So I'm really excited about it. I'll be there 5 of the 6 nights a week that it's going on. And I'm super happy to hear any questions or concerns anybody might have. It's my job to make sure that I'm like listening and like actually having conversations about this. So if anybody who has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm also gonna drop my email in here because I would love to hear from anybody. Any thoughts?
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? We will be sure to push that out on our site as well. I'm getting enthusiastic nods over here.
Great.
Thank you.
And I am going to be, I've been coordinating with Kathy, dropping off some flyers that can be hung up in some of the buildings that have information about how to volunteer, QR codes to scan, to sign up and stuff, and how to sign up for the free tickets as well. So if you're in any of those specific buildings, you might see a big flyer with some of our like art and a little description of the show.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Sorry, I muted myself for a second there. Alex, you are here from Pitt. Do you have an update that you'd like to be able to provide? And if you want to provide more information, those tantalizing details about move-in, that would be.
That would be A-okay. Thanks, Andrea. Hello, everyone. Yeah, from Pitt, Office of Engagement and Community Affairs. Move-in will start August 19th. That's a Thursday. Welcome week activities on campus, really kicking the gear that Monday on the 22nd. So we will be having a variety of in-person activities, some of the normal programming and events and orientation throughout that week. And then classes start on the 27th. So can expect to see an uptick in activity in terms of PIT in our campus towards the end of the month. We are also back to having our back to school Be a Good Neighbor block parties in person this year. We're excited about that. It's a great opportunity to come out and meet some of our students who are living off campus, and for our students to meet long-term residents, and then just strike up some dialogue around some of the issues we talk about here in a really fun, informal setting. So everyone on the call is invited. The first one is in South Oakland on Tuesday, September 7th at Dan Marino Field. Then that Thursday on the 9th in Central Oakland at the Panera Bread parking lot on the Boulevard of the Allies. Tuesday, September 14th is North Oakland at 234 North Dithridge, our good friend Kathy Gallagher's lawn. And then the following Tuesday, the 21st, is West Oakland with our friends at the corner of Robinson and Terrace. We're also working with South Oakland Neighborhood Group to host a field day with our athletics and community leisure learning program and some other partners on Saturday, August 7th. And we've got flyers coming out for that. So please tell your friends, families with kids about that. And the last thing I will note is that we, during the pandemic, well, two more things that are pandemic related coming out of the pandemic. We rolled out a new Report a Concern platform that you're able to submit concerns via email, via telephone call, via text for anything regarding PIT, whether it's a student issue, whether it's a trash issue, whether it's a PIT truck blocking a lane issue. Those calls come into a central location. They then get routed to the proper Department of PIT. They get tracked so we can go back and check them for accountability, and then hopefully they get resolved a little quicker than in the past. You can always contact Jamie and I and the community affairs team, but this is just another way to get some problems taken care of, right? I'll drop that link in the chat. And lastly, we're in some form or fashion, I'm not sure what it's going to look like, more of a sort of ambassador feel, I think, but our off-campus student safety ambassadors that we had working in sort of 6 areas throughout the neighborhood and during the pandemic, they'll be back in some way to sort of just promote good sort of relations and connections between campus and community and off-campus students and things like that. So more to come there. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Alex. We have representatives here from 2 of the city council districts, from District 8 and from District 3, I believe. I'm not sure. But I'd like to be able to start off with District 8. Davon, if you'd like to give an update, please.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I don't have too much of like an official update, but I can share our newsletter for this month. But that's all for me.
Sweet. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, simple. All right, that's easy. Does
Sure,
anybody have any questions for Davon? Okay, and Bob, are you here?
Yes. And Davon, I look forward to working on the same floor with you again in just a few weeks here as we go back to work.
In person again.
I'm not looking forward to having to wear a mask for 8 hours a day. But that's a whole different conversation.
Wearing pants is another thing. But real quickly, I don't have a whole lot of an update here. I do want to touch, Liz mentioned the rental registry earlier. We obviously have been following that very closely in our office. It affects Oakland, Southside, well, good portion of our district, and just would be a generally great thing to see citywide. Was passed originally in 2015. The administration has said that they are exploring all options as it stands right now as to what the next steps might be. I've got some ideas on what I would like to see them be, but I don't want to speak on behalf of the mayor's office or Councilman Kraus here, but I think it's incredibly important, and I think that Judge James's ruling there is ridiculous, to be kind. And this is why voting in your county Court of Common Pleas races really matters.
Every 10 years when we get a chance to do that.
Yeah, well, and then, yeah, the attention of Judge James. Anyway, that's a whole other story, and probably I think we want to be brief here in Let's Talk Oakland, but I'd be happy to discuss that much further with any of you. Our office, one of the things I think that hasn't been mentioned since the last Oakwatch Let's Talk Oakland meeting has been our capital budget request. We did put in a large budget request for the Lawn Street Promenade, which has been something we've been fighting for some time here, and will be something we fight for again this year as as we go through that process. If you have the opportunity to fill out budget requests through the Engage PGH platform, and I believe everyone has done that. We've been pushing that for a while. Please continue to do so. It is helpful, as well as the Engage PGH form on the demolition properties. That does mean something. You're not just putting it into a special file that goes into the trash. It really does mean something. We see that we don't do nearly as many demolitions as we'd like to, but it is helpful to have community process help move them along and advocate for them. So probably went longer than you'd like me to, but any questions for me, always here, and feel free to reach out. Look forward to seeing everybody on the walk in a couple weeks.
Hey, Andrea, this is Mavis. I hate to do this at 7:18 p.m., but I have to ask our city council folks, with the recent, adoption passing by council of the proposal on how to spend the COVID-19 emergency funding that the city has, one of the components included a recommendation for, I see Dave on smiling, $1 million by Mayor Peduto to explore the permanent closure of a number of streets in the city that are currently being used for outdoor dining. I was in a number of community meetings last week where there was some support, but there was also some concern. So just wanted to ask, do you know if there is going to be, what that entails? Because the questions we received were, what's the process that the city would use to decide about how to close a street permanently? Because there's a lot of questions about the impact to the adjacent streets, parking, loading zones, emergency vehicle access, sidewalk access. So wanted to put that out there.
No, so Mavis, I wanted to make sure that we got that one also straight, because I had that question from another channel before this meeting. I wasn't able to line up people who were going to be like from DOMI and from permits and so forth to be able to discuss that specifically. I wanted to be able to make sure that we could really get into that, and I'm hoping to put that into the next meeting in August. But I mean, if anybody has anything to weigh in on right now, by all means, please. Well,
the question I have is it too late? They voted something. So was it?
No, it's not. It's, any permanent closures are going to have community process around them, and, traffic studies and that whole more of an engagement process. I will defer that it will be coming from DOMI, but it is not too late. There's nothing set in stone, and everything, is subject to change. But I don't want to weigh in on exactly, and I know the street you're referring to, but I will say that we need to get somebody from DOMI to explain exactly what we want to say before I put my foot in my mouth. So thank you.
Yeah, and I apologize for the bad timing. I know that this is going to be complicated, and I wanted to make sure that people were prepared so we could really get good answers to that question, because it's so many layers. But I also wanted to point out that the ARPA funding that Mavis, you were just referring to, that council voted included plugging a budget hole to cover the previously approved capital expenditure to repair and restore the Fraser Street and Romeo Street steps, which, yay, is a huge issue for mobility access through South Oakland and pedestrian access down to 2nd Avenue and Bates. So very glad to see that got preserved.
1.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, not a small issue. It's a huge set of steps, and it's like, so
yeah,
very grateful. Anybody have any questions yet for City Council people? Mavis, did you have something you wanted to be able to announce either? Is there anything that we need to know, or is it all?
I just wanted to share that there's going to be a meeting next week with Spin. This is the company that is managing the e-scooters that are part of the micromobility hubs that were recently installed in different locations in the city. There have been some expressed concerns from multiple agencies, individuals reported through 311 about the operation of the e-scooters. For example, they're only intended for one user at a time. We've seen instances where parents had their children on the e-scooters traveling down Liberty Avenue downtown. That's just an example. So we're meeting with Spin, with Domi, myself, and the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership will be part of a meeting to talk about how do we put together safety outreach education for users. We're also going to look at signage to remind scooters users they're not allowed on the sidewalks. We're also trying to see if we can make sure that the operation is really limited to things like bike lanes, areas where there's just safer operation because of the speed of the scooters compared to vehicular traffic. There's a conversation with PennDOT about that right now. So I just want to let folks know that we're trying to get this, get some safety measures in place before we start to see the return of students all over the city. Because we anticipate that once the kids are back on campus, you're going to see a much larger increase of operations for scooters, e-scooters, as well as the traditional Scooby scooters that we have in operation right now. So I wanted to mention that. Also too, we have the fall 2021 student arrival schedule for Carlo, for CMU, for Chatham, Duquesne, Point Park, Robert Morris, CCAC, and of course Pitt. So we're going to be putting together a broadcast with that information that also includes the street closures. There's going to be a few that are going to be in place, not only during arrival, but also special events that are going to be hosted during the time that the students are coming back onto campus.
Maybe do you already have that compiled? Is there a link you can drop in the chat, or is that something we can push out for you?
We literally are waiting to get confirmation on 2 street closures, but the bulk of the information there. So once we have that, we can send it to OPDC and you can broadcast it out.
Sweet.
Okay.
Thank you. I also want to reiterate that we've had some complaints about the parking of the e-scooters, so maybe we should confab about some place where we can put those kinds of comments because they are getting parked up.
That'd be great.
So, I'll see if I can push that out later too. Cool. Yeah. Is anybody else have any announcements? I feel like we are right there at 7:25. I think we can make it. Gonna get home on time. Of course, everybody's already home. Any final words or questions or things that we need to bring up next time or be prepared to discuss?
Hi, Andrea. If
Hi.
you wouldn't mind, I just want to introduce myself. I'm replacing Ryan Murphy, who some of you may know as Chair of Community and Governmental Relations for SGB at Pitt. That's the Student Government Board. I always just use SGB, and I forget that not everyone uses like the same shortened words that I do. But yeah, I just want to introduce myself. I'm a rising sophomore. Obviously, we're functioning at lower capacity right now because it's summer and most people aren't around, but I am in Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh. So yeah, I just want to introduce myself. I'll obviously have more updates as we move on, but for now, just wanted to say hi, and it's been great just to hear from everyone. And I had the privilege of meeting Andrea in person for the first time yesterday. We did a little walk, and I should be there at the beginning of August for our walk together, hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, that's all.
It's all over party here.
Yes, hello to Eric too.
We're all still here. Right, Alex? Thank you so much, Dominic. It's a pleasure to work with you, and I'm glad you're aboard. Great. Well, if anybody has anything else, please reach out to me directly via email or phone anytime. And thank you all so much for coming. And to everybody who gave us updates, I really appreciate you taking the time, truly. And have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you all. Have a good one.